What is up, guys? Welcome here to Town Hall Heroes, episode number 59. I'm Solid Jake. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm here in ESL America at the studio, and my gear is a bit different this week. I'm going to have to do this with the microphone. I'm Solid Jake, joined by two of our wonderful normal hosts, Kubi and Kevin, and Mr. Bakery himself, our third ever European guest. But going down the line, Kubus Maximus, what is new with you?
Not too much Heroes related stuff. Let's see. We tested some interesting games. Four Core Jester and I did yesterday. We'll get to talking about that. We got some interesting picks there, some fun ones. Hopefully you guys caught those games. Otherwise, you can check the VODs out, of course. Other than that, spent my Sunday cleaning out a basement and then watching Heroes of the Dorm. Some fun stuff. We'll get into that too. So that's it for me.
All right, Kev, what's up with you?
Not much. Just been watching a lot of Heroes lately. Was playing pretty much all day Saturday. Kubi, I know you were solo queuing all day Saturday.
Oh,
whoa!
I forgot to talk about that. Oh.
You were solo queuing all day Saturday, and I kept thinking that he absolutely hated me because I was inviting him to all these different groups, and Kubi was just like, "Nope, decline, decline, decline." And I was like, I mean, I know Kubi doesn't like playing with me, but I didn't know he didn't like playing with me that much.
So. Saturday was a mission for me. I just sat down. I was like, okay, I got some time. I'm sitting at rank 2. I was like, all right, let's just solo queue my way to rank 1. That I think I started playing at 1 or something in the afternoon and finished at 12 at night. I got to the point where I would play one more game and a win to promote myself, and I would lose. That happened about 5 or 6 times. Do you know how heartbreaking that is? And by the end of it, I was just a full salt mine. And I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to party with anybody. I was like, no, I'm doing this. I'm going to finish it. And I did. So
I'm proud of you.
Yep. Finally done.
Now all 4 members of Town Hall are finally rank 1.
Solo queue life is a sad life.
It is a sad life.
It is.
It's more rewarding.
I don't know if it's more rewarding. I think it's I was discussing this at work today because somebody was like, "Oh man, I hate solo queue in any game," and I'm like, it's just a completely different playstyle. It's a playstyle completely separated from being able to play in a group or with a couple of friends. Like solo queue, you're trying to herd cats, but that's the mistake is that you're just one of the cats. Just follow where the food is.
So deep.
All right, well, moving on the line, also a rank 1 player, Mr. Bakery, James Baker. What is up, and welcome to Town Hall, my friend.
Thank you very much. There's not much up. We're practicing really hard for Major League Season 2. Hyped for DreamHack, which is really soon, next week or so.
That's the first big LAN in the world, really. But we'll definitely touch on that in a bit. But that is really exciting.
It's definitely really exciting.
Cool. Well, so just to recap my situation, I am in California at the ESL studio. That's why the production's a bit different. Hopefully the audio's not terrible. I'm actually streaming on the opposite side from Grubby. Grubby's right over there, so if you're watching his stream, he's actually in the same room, so that's pretty cool. But yes, we're working on the Heroes of the Dorm production here, and that's actually going to be our first topic of the day. We're just going to open up talking about that Super 16 if you were able to catch it. Now, in amongst us four, who saw Heroes of the Dorm or any of it?
Raise my hand inside the little box.
Yeah, right. Cover my face.
In Bakery, well, can you tell me why you didn't see it?
I was playing Guitar Hero. I was watching it.
Okay.
On the side, it's just there was Guitar Hero there. I was like, damn.
Okay.
I got hard.
So, besides the fact that it wasn't available in Europe because it was on the ESPN, he was also distracted by Guitar Hero. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that Heroes of the Dorm was actually really only available to be seen on ESPN, which happens to only be available in America, let alone, I think a bigger problem in Europe. Yeah, that's awful. Asia, you can't watch it there either. But Canada, where there are teams competing in the event, their parents can't watch it from home. So that's kind of not good. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that was...
You think that the solution is they should have some kind of side broadcast, but then everyone would just watch the side broadcast if it was on Twitch or something. So they kind of have to make a choice and stick with it. and that's what they ended up going with. How the numbers looked, of course, we have no idea. So like whether that was a smart decision to go with. But all those points you mentioned, where you're sort of alienating a lot of, different audiences from Europe, from Asia, South America, Canada, it's a problem, no matter how you want to look at it. And I think I saw something about a rebroadcast, but I don't know if that was on ESPN
it was
as
on
well.
Twitch. It was on Twitch.
It was on Twitch.
Today.
So I guess you just have to wait 3 days, which is unfortunate because you want to watch it when it's happening and when it's hype, right? So well, it is what it is.
I think that, like you said, that's the nice thing. There's a rebroadcast on Twitch, and the VODs are now on YouTube, so the accessibility is there. But it's still like after the fact, right? The results are out there already. It's never the same. Like even watching a GSL rebroadcast when I was in college, if I could watch GSL live, it's 10 times more exciting than watching it, after. So I would get up at 4 a.m. to try to watch it before class.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is, I mean, on one hand, I have to say, like, it really sucks that it alienated the rest of the globe, but I think it's also pretty interesting because it was on ESPN3 and a lot of people have that channel. How many potential viewers did we get through just ESPN3? Like, people just kind of scrolling around and they found that on their channels, because I know a lot of, like, premium subscription and everything, they get that ESPN3 channel on their TV. So that's what I'm kind of curious about. I wish it was more... because the programming was literally described as video gaming Heroes of the Storm. And I was like, oh my god, why would you, like...
Well, it has to be as simplistic, and you got to understand the audience. It's completely foreign to them.
Couldn't they just labeled it competitive gaming?
But competitive gaming could be poker.
Competitive video gaming? I don't know. It's just video gaming is...
Dude, just put esports. Who cares? People will be like, what the heck is esports? And they'll click on it. Like, if you create intrigue, it's just as much as describing something. Like, if somebody like, oh, what's this on ESPN3? I have no idea. And they click on it. Like, you're going to have a better example than if it's just as video gaming. And people would be like, oh, nope, next one. I feel like that would alienate the elder audience. So, I don't know. That's what kind of bugged me more than anything else. Like ESPN, I get it that like the rest of the globe couldn't see it, and that really sucks. But the fact that they, like, even the audience that they were trying to draw in, which was people who were just watching it on TV or on their Xbox apps or whatever, putting it as video gaming, Heroes of the Storm, it's like you're going to alienate the only audience that you were hoping to reach.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, they're really marketing towards the people that are already watching ESPN already. They're just trying to see like what the reaction is, kind of deal. It's definitely a very different event. I mean, it's collegiate. It's teams that are playing for tuition, right? If you guys don't know what Heroes of the Dorm is, it's literally just a collegiate league where teams qualify. They play in qualifiers. Then there's a 64-man bracket, and this is the top 16, and it's $450,000 in basically prizing towards tuition in the end of in the grand scheme of things. But so just kind of segueing or moving forward is I was working on production, so I don't necessarily have that same kind of viewer experience because I'm part of it. As a viewer, obviously the UI was very different, and the information available in the casting style, it was all very different. As somebody who's really ingrained in the game and really involved, how did you guys feel about that?
I actually really liked it.
I thought you were playing Guitar Hero.
He said he had it on the side.
I saw a bit of it. So the way I see like the entire event is they don't actually care about the event. Like the way I see it is it's just trying to set like the groundwork for the future of esports. Like so in the future it'll be broadcast on Twitch, be broadcast on YouTube, broadcast on ESPN, like everywhere. I think the entire point of this was just like, hey guys, it's a video game on TV. It's for college. Look how good this is. And like going along with that, I think the interface was really slick. Like it was very easy to see because obviously I had it on a tiny screen to the side of Guitar Hero. Yeah. I could like look at it. I could see it from like a room away, like all the information I needed.
See, that's the big benefit of that UI versus what we do for our normal broadcast. So with Ollie's interface, if you try to watch that on Xbox, the information is damn near impossible to read. The talents, it's all just blur. So I can defend it in that point because, again, it's designed for TV. And let me just give you guys a little bit of insight as to how big the production team was, though. So just this is how hard it is to execute this event because of very specific things. So not only is the interface really cool, but I'm sure you guys noticed the observing was really kind of fluid and smooth.
Yeah.
And the way that's executed is very interesting. Basically, they use two computers. They use one computer with a normal interface, which is the basic computer that's being used, and then a second computer with the nice, clean, minimal interface. All the like extra stats removed out of the game. There's no like cast bars, none of that kind of information. It's all been gutted, and it's set to follow the other observer. So it follows it, and with a short delay, it corrects and smooths out the moving of the mouse, essentially. And it's really interesting. Now, eventually we'll have somebody from Blizzard, ideally, to like fully explain it, but essentially that's how they execute that. And it's just really cool. But basically they have two observers operating the one observer because there's like special hotkeys to manage that bar on the bottom where all the the bar changes on the main UI. One guy manages all the hotkeys. Another guy's doing the actual observing, and they're working as a team. Then they have two guys running that draft client. So we saw the special draft. It's a very intricate client that they built for this. They have two guys running that. And then beyond the production room is like, it's like 7 people. And then you have casters and cameramen and people managing the casters. So it was then a bajillion other people that just do a million other things. So the staff was actually probably like 40 plus people to put in that production.
And I think it definitely showed in a lot of ways, like, because that was one thing I definitely noticed. I was like, there's something really weird about the camera movements here. It's like like they've either been practicing like machines to try and figure out the best way to do all that stuff, and I know that they were doing that for when they were originally doing BlizzCon, because that's how we got that whole entire like, I don't know if you guys ever picked up from BlizzCon, but there was that thing where they would be focused in on a lane, they would zoom out, they would slowly pan up to the next lane and then zoom back in. Like those kind of movements, that's where we got from BlizzCon.
Yeah. Because
they were sitting around fooling around with that. And I was wondering if that was something they were just like playing around with technique-wise, or if they came up with something a little bit more interesting. And I guess that's a really interesting way to do it. I'm curious if that's going to be like something that we could accomplish elsewhere.
I mean, Matt Shimbari has told me a lot about it, and they put a lot of time and effort into building all of this. So we're going to try to have him on soon to actually get the full discussion out of it.
I love Matt. He's one of my favorite people from Blizzard.
No, huge shout out to him. But yeah, I think they did say that they want to make this publicly available, all these resources and how to do it. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think, the UI was not what we were used to. And I think the knee-jerk reaction was, oh my god, this is terrible, this is bad. I don't completely subscribe to that. I don't think it was terrible, I don't think it was bad. It was frustrating as a caster, or like as somebody who has a lot of knowledge about the competitive scene, but this is not who it was meant for. I guess a better UI in the long run will be something that caters to both us people who are of the higher level of knowledge of the game and are looking for that really in-depth analysis, as well as not scaring away everybody else. I think the mini-map is a big thing. It's what everybody complains about. Just because if I stepped away for a couple of minutes, I had to come back and I had to listen to the casters for like 3 minutes to figure out what I missed in that like 2 minutes of stepping away. So that was the only issue.
I do agree there. The mini-map, like, not being there was so annoying.
I struggle with just that one part, the minimap. On the one hand, you have exactly what Kevin is saying. Like, they need to cater to a specific audience, a specific set of viewers that, yeah, if you put too much stuff on the screen, heroic cooldowns, all the health bars, the mana bars, all of that stuff, and including the minimap, yes, things get overly complicated and it's too much to look at. But at the same time, I have to think that someone who doesn't know anything about the game would look at that particular part of the map and then, see it like flash over. There were times that did happen. They would not do the zoom out thing and then move over to the other part of the map. It would just flash over to another lane, and then it's just like, whoa, where's this in relation to that? We know where it is from, for the most part, based on just how much we've played, but the average person, well, not even the average, just the person looking at it for the first time, I would think that would still be somewhat confusing. So I don't know if there's a way for them to put a simplified mini-map in. That's, again, I struggle with this point, and obviously a lot of the people in the competitive community were just like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I can't even follow like what team is winning just because I can't see anything about the minimap, which lanes are pushed forward. We can't see forts that have been taken down, all of this stuff, merc camps, etc. So yeah, there's definitely two sides to the coin. I'm sure that just the minimap alone was a very heavily debated, do we put it in or not, and how do we work it into the UI so that things aren't overly complicated. It's a tough call.
Do any of you have anyone that you know that's not necessarily involved in esports that might have tuned in?
I don't.
I tried to get my dad tuned in because he absolutely loves everything that Rutgers does, and I was like, Rutgers is playing right now on this game, and he's like, I'm not at home, and I'm like, I was like, we can finally bond. You'll understand what I do, and then he was just like, I'm not home.
I can't be
there. But no, I don't think I have anybody. But I mean, I can't. This is the one thing that I will always give Blizzard credit for. We will sit here and we'll be like, man, this is going to be alienating for viewers. Blizzard knows if this stuff is alienating for new viewers. Like, right. They test this stuff time and time again. Like, when we look at the talent gating things, of course, the vocal minority backlash, but at the same time, you look at people who are brand new to the game. They get, I mean, I know people that I bring into the game and they've never played MOBAs before, and they were getting like talent options, and they would do exactly as I've heard. Like, they would just freeze and they would sit there and read. But if they only have two options, they only read those two options. So I mean, these are the kinds of things that Blizzard's already thought about, and Blizzard's definitely tried, but still, it's so frustrating for the rest of us.
It is, but again, you have to remember it's not catered to us, so
it's not for us.
It's
I know.
tough.
Well, the one thing I can say for sure is the amount of effort and time and thought they put into the entire event is ridiculous. And if they do anything to that caliber for Heroes competitive in the future, I'm very excited because seriously, like in terms of like just the assets and everything for that production, I've worked on a lot of broadcasts. This was by far the highest caliber show I've ever worked on. I thought it felt better than a BlizzCon in terms of just production quality.
It definitely looked it.
Yeah, I definitely continue. Sorry.
No, you can.
No, that's all I had to say was just I agree. Just continue. That's why I said continue.
Oh, I was going to segue into. I was going to say about how, because eventually, what I hope is to have them streaming on different platforms. So they stream on TV and they stream on Twitch. And on the TV stream, you have that interface. Like maybe add a mini map or whatever, but it's just like the basic interface. It's like for beginners, people who aren't interested in it. And then on the Twitch stream, you can have a proper interface with all the details, heroic cooldowns, talent choices, all of the details that people want.
Yeah.
I think that'd be very nice.
Targeting the audience.
And I think that's the exciting thing about finding out that they can have a camera that follows a second camera. Because in theory, if you just have a second observer that has the TV interface and that's set to follow the same observer that the Twitch stream sees, the cast is consistent because the observer is always going to be identical. So with that kind of technology existing, the option of a internet broadcast and a TV broadcast being consistent and clean with different interfaces is within the reach of what we already have in the tools. So that's what I'm hoping for as well.
The observing was super nice. That was the biggest thing that jumped out at me. I looked at this and I'm like, whoa, okay. Somebody has really stepped it up, like Kevin was saying. And I like sat down and I was like, all right, I can do this. Sat down, exactly. I was like, moving the mouse, middle mouse click down and like dragging over. I'm like, it's so much smoother. How does he do it? And I was like, no, something's up. Yeah. Something's up. What are they doing?
There's one thing that I noticed, which was it was on Haunted Mines, and people were like going down the mines. It zoomed out, and then it like zoomed in, and it went like through the hole.
That was
Yes!
I was
that
like,
was so sexy.
I
That was
didn't
all
catch any of
manual.
those.
I think they use hotkeys to execute that, but that's one of the things that they practiced a lot on. Like the observers, like Kibbles and I forget the other guys' names because I'm a bad person. They busted their butts figuring that kind of stuff out. Like, and that just makes it intuitive. So you talked about like things not being intuitive for the viewer when you just click the map. They're going into the mines, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, that was one of those things, and not screenshotting, screen saving, like how you used to in StarCraft. Is that still enabled in Blizz Heroes? I never used it, so I haven't tried.
In terms
But I
of
would
like hotkeys on the map, yeah, they use.
Yeah,
those.
like F1s, F4s. That's what I assume is how they did it. Like
Yeah.
they would like do the zoom out, and then as they're zooming in, they tap like F1, and it just goes to like right where the top of the mines is.
Yeah,
That's next level.
They were able to set up all those hotkeys at the start of the game very quickly and do that, and it's just really impressive at how clean and consistent the observers were.
Hmm.
Okay.
Anyway, the games.
Some
the
good ones.
games.
Okay, so yeah, there's some other things to talk about, which we'll segue into that a little bit. But I saw people asking, how do we feel about no bans? And I thought about it real quick. It's like, that you'd think that would be a problem, and my immediate gut reaction would be like, oh, you're gonna have a staler meta in terms of what heroes are picked. But there's the player field that we're looking at isn't like super top competitive, right? At least for a good majority of the teams. So I think we still saw a ton of hero variety, a lot more than we would even see with bans in tournaments. So for what it was, perfectly fine for them to run no bans, in my opinion.
Okay. There was only one game where I was just like, oh my god, that composition is disgusting because of no bans. It was just Cal Berkeley had Illidan, ETC, Rhaegar, Jaina, and Tassadar, I think. I was just like,
Okay, well,
No team
who's
fit.
on Cal Berkeley?
oh, I know. It's,
Okay, right.
It's
So-
Fan Suppi and
Yes.
Panda Jigu, but
There's some experience there at the
that
very
was just
least.
like,
So they
this
know
is
what they
actually
can try to get
disgusting.
with.
Like,
That's why I said it's save for a couple teams, right? So a majority of the teams probably haven't played in the tournament before. Some of the teams featured a few competitive players from the NA scene, and those teams all did surprise really well.
hey, I just want to point out something really cool, though. Speaking of that point, Kawhi Rice on Washington, we know him as a support player. He used to be on EG.
Sure, he was playing
He
tanks.
played ETC because he was shot calling,
Yeah.
which is really cool to see.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense considering like I guess he would be the only one who has enough knowledge to make those shots called.
Shots. So let's see. We saw Murky. Murky played.
We saw Murky.
I didn't
Rutgers.
personally catch that game. I don't know if
That was
anyone
Rutgers.
else. Did you see it, Kevin?
Yeah, it was
Everybody-
cheeky.
Jake saw
It
it,
was
at least.
really cheeky.
Cheekiness was it?
I didn't really have-
did it
I
make
didn't have really-
sense, or
Not really. I'm gonna say this. Both those teams played really sloppy that game, but it was still cool to see, especially because it came back out in ESL. But we'll talk about that later.
Mirko? Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the Rutgers game those games were all really weird, but oh well.
Okay, let's talk about bracket predictions. How bad did everyone do?
Dude.
Bakery's face.
Terrible? Bakery?
Well, I've got Cal Berkeley to win the whole thing,
Good.
and that's the only thing I have right.
Oh, excellent.
I
Okay.
will say a slight bit of shots fired. I was looking at my bracket, and then I'd have to like make another tab with the actual bracket, and then try to swap back and forth. And I was like, I'm too
It's
lazy to do
annoying.
this.
It is annoying.
So they maybe would have been nice to have something that compared your bracket very nice visually, so you can quickly look at it and see where you were wrong. Would have been a cool thing to have. Whatever, it's not there. But so I kind of gave up looking. So I don't have a good answer for you. I didn't bother looking. I was just like, somebody would probably be telling me if I had a top bracket right now, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, my bracket's ripperoonies. Again, Cal Berkeley and Arizona State, I think, are the only two that I actually had getting far. Yeah, that's about it.
Mine's actually pretty good, except I didn't believe in my home college. I didn't believe in UConn, and they actually made it to the round of 8. And I actually had them. I had them getting to the round of 8, but then losing, and or no, to the round of 16 and then losing to, I forget who. But anyways, the school that they lose to, I had going all the way to the top 4. I'm trying to think of who it was. Regardless, that ruined my bracket.
Arizona, maybe.
No, they're
Different
on the
side of the
opposite
bracket.
side. It's yeah, but it's just I didn't trust my home school. Now they're gonna go to win the event, and that's just
Rip.
kind of how it works. So good luck, UConn. I'm rooting for you.
UConn.
Huh?
Huh?
He's
What
like,
was
"Root for
that?"
You.
Uh,
UConn." Terrible.
I can't turn up the mic, guys. I'm sorry. It's this microphone is not optimal. I know. I'll just try to speak up a little bit more.
All right, Bakery. Question is, see if you can answer this just from an EU perspective, but the overall, you talk a lot with the pro scene, of course. What was just the general reaction from Heroes of the Dorm? Were they kind of just meh? Did they find some value in it, other than what your personal opinion was?
I'd say that a large majority of those were not happy about not being able to watch it and not happy with the draft interface and not happy with no bounds.
No bans. They were okay.
No. They didn't like the draft interface.
No, they like that, the observe interface. I mean,
the observer interface. Okay.
yeah,
Now,
they just didn't like it in general. That's the impression I got anyway.
Yeah, I think that's
Quite a lot of them did watch it though, because I don't know if you guys saw there was a Twitch restream or
Yes.
some guy was like restreaming it. and
people
they were-
found ways.
yeah.
Find ways. But yeah, I know that a lot of people that were outside the U.S. ended up making use of that, so it is what it is. I mean, the fact that it needed to exist, that brings up the argument in itself, right? So, all right. Anything else to talk about with Heroes of the Dorm?
I guess just final thoughts on the event, and obviously it resumes this Saturday.
Yeah.
Or yes.
Is it Saturday, Sunday, or
It's-
just
it's
Saturday?
just Saturday. It's only 4 best of 3s. It's round of 8.
Kev,
so-
they're stepping on your turf.
I'm actually stepping on their turf.
I thought it was 3 Sundays in a row. Actually, that was my
it's
assumption.
Saturday
Okay.
4 best of 3s.
Well,
Yeah.
my overall thoughts are, I think I didn't go with my knee reaction. I looked at this and I'm like, oh, and then I was like, okay, wait, gotta sit back. I gotta remember who this is for. It's not for us. Hopefully, we'll see stuff in the future that is for us. That would be nice. But for what it was, I think they did an excellent job with it. The production was really nice. Observing was really smooth. The casting was really good for what it was. Like, we didn't talk too much about the casting. Obviously, it was very simplified, but given the audience, it makes a lot of sense. They spent a lot of time explaining the maps, the mechanics, what heroes do if they're particularly impactful in a weird way. I think all of that was really smart, and for what it was, what needed to be executed, it did a good job.
Kevo, final thoughts?
I think they accomplished a lot of what they wanted to accomplish. I think some of the ways that they tried to accomplish some of these things was just not the best way to do it. Especially I'm still on the video gaming thing. I just see that as a slap in the face. Like, it just kind of illegitimizes. I don't know, whatever that word is.
Legitimizes.
Illegitimizes. There we go. I can't even speak, so I don't know if I'm actually supposed to be a good spokesman for this. The only other thing that I really kind of I'm going to say it. I think the casters were bogged down with something because, like, they were pausing. I mean, I just know this is because, like, I'm a caster myself, and they were just pausing and pacing themselves in a really weird manner that they were, like, it seemed like they were really, really thinking hard about what they wanted to say. Like, Sean, for example, like, I watched him between, Sean did a good job on Saturday, Sunday, but I watched him between that and ESL Majors, and it felt like ESL Majors he felt so much more comfortable, and like I could, I was like, it just sounded like a completely different four-court jester.
You got to understand that.
Yeah,
it's
I understand
So like,
completely.
words like kill, you can't say that. You got to say takedown. You can't say AOE because what does that mean? You can't say DPS because what does that mean? So there's a lot of words that are just ingrained in our vocabulary as casters that you have to erase from your memory temporarily. It's really weird.
And the issue, I think, with that as well is that we need to get some sort of like unification here because doesn't the Heroes UI say kills? Doesn't it say
That's-
deaths? Doesn't it
they-
say all this stuff? So like,
They
They put
corrected that.
takedowns.
It said
I know,
TD.
they-
Yeah.
but you know,
TDs.
Touchdowns.
Touchdowns.
yeah,
Yo,
TDs.
he's got 36 touchdowns.
I'm sure someone thought of that. They were like, "Ugh, this
Dude,
is
I thought that. I saw
overlap."
TDs. I was like, touchdowns?
Yeah.
But it just it relied a lot on the casters and not to really kind of give them crap because I know if I was in that situation, I definitely would have done probably worse because I'm way worse. If I have to think about what I'm saying, I just
The worst.
stop. I
Heaven
just
forbid I have to think.
Kev, you wouldn't be able to pun either. You'd be rude.
no, I'd be able to pun. Oh, screw that. I would pun.
You would
I
write.
would
it.
get. They would literally be
Must
like
be
you would.
able to pun.
They would cut back to casters, and you would see the giant like hook around my neck as I make a pun. It looks like I'm unbearable. But that's just the only gripe that I had. They just need to have that unification. Like if we're not gonna be able to say kill in future competitions and all that stuff, then you want to take that out of the UI now. Because that's just it. That's what kind of bothered. Not the kill thing, but just forcing your casters to have to think that much about what they're going to say to the point that they have to like really stop and slow themselves down. I think it kind of hurt a lot. But
So I guess the question I have to put in here is, if this is what's required for television, do we want or need television?
I think television's a dying form. But that's a talk for another day.
Yeah, that's true.
There was a quote from Carmack, which is the head of ESL, Director of Operations or something, and he basically said that he thought like TV was going to hinder esports more than it would help it. And I kind of agree on some level, but I think on another level there's a lot of untapped audience to be had in TV.
It's very difficult to make this argument without having numbers.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
Yeah.
if we had some idea of how many people were reached with this type of broadcast, who knows? And obviously, yes, the whole scholarship thing, that's gonna be a big deal. Even like a mom like tuning in watching this, oh my goodness, they're giving a full scholarship. Like that's gonna obviously it's not gonna play probably, but like get your kids to play or at least be more accepting of people spending all of their time playing esports. But again, without those numbers, we have no idea how many people were reached, etc. So
For some reason, I just pictured your mother being like, "Oh my goodness, video games for money," and like rounding up all the kids in the neighborhood and then making hot pockets and feeding them hot pockets while they watch Heroes of the
Mountain
Dorm.
Dew.
I was gonna say Mountain Dew Hot Pockets.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. Baker, your final thoughts on? I guess you kind of gave us your final thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are your
pretty
final
much.
thoughts, Jake? If you can disclose them.
Ooh, yeah. From a production
I
standpoint.
definitely think it's cool in terms of like the interface and having that as an option for TV. I don't like the casting thing. I just kept thinking about if that was me up there. It's like I'm more than capable of doing that, but it doesn't sound as fun, right? Casting is very enjoyable to me. I think it's incredibly fun, and I aspire to be caster. That's what I want to do. But I was watching the cast. It's just like so restricted as to what you can actually do. That esports vibe and what makes esports what it is, and the culture that exists, was kind of yeah, it was really suppressed in that instance. So that was unappealing to me because I really like the whole organic vibe of most of these events that we get out of these casters. They
Maybe.
have these personalities. They have these kind of norms that you're used to. I'm actually intrigued to see how a guy like Day9, who's very professional but kind of silly, does on the camera this weekend, because it's like how is he as silly and goofy as he normally is, kind of thing. Can he be that self? So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I'll have a stronger opinion by the time the whole thing's over. But I'm excited to see if or what kind of changes they make moving into the upcoming weeks, because we've got 2 more weeks of Heroes of the Dorm. We'll close it out with that guy Saturday. It's going to be the round of 8, and the following week is the Final Four, Ferocious Four. I forget what they called it.
Heroic 4, I
Heroic
believe.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the top 8? Is it Elite 8? Or is
Yeah.
that basketball? I don't know. I confuse all these things with like basketball.
Epic
lingo
8,
and
Epic
it's-
8, Epic
It's
8.
Epic. Okay, so it is probably Elite 8 for basketball or something.
All right.
I I just wanted to go real quickly on your point, Jake, about casting and all that stuff. And I do want to say that the original form of caster, where we get caster from, why we don't say commentator, which I'm still kind of like we should probably say commentator, is because from shoutcasting, and that's
program.
like the energy, the literally people shouting at their computer.
Well, Shoutcaster is a program.
Yeah, exactly.
Software.
But like they called it shoutcaster because people were like shouting. I mean,
Right. Well,
if you ever listen to like the olden days shoutcasting stuff, it's it's exactly that. It's something that's not exactly what commentating has become. I mean, now we say commentator just to bridge that gap, but we're a different breed. But yeah, anyway, let's go on to the next.
Okay, well, the next is going to be us digging into the brain of Bakery. Mr. James Baker, now is your time to speak. So let us just start off with you introducing who you are, your background as a gamer, and your team and all that good stuff.
Okay, so I'm Bakery. I play Reigns Assassin for SK Gaming's Hero of the Storm team. I started off gaming, like seriously, as in like not playing Xbox or something, with StarCraft 2, back when that released.
Because Xbox is casual. Good, continue.
Yep, clearly. And I was bronze for 2 years or something horrendous like that. And so I gave up on that game. I moved over to League of Legends in the end of Season 1. And I was silver elo for ages again. The entirety of Season 2 pretty much. And like as the end of Season 2 rolled around, I decided I want to get good at League of Legends. I'm gonna be the best League of Legends player ever. So I started playing it a lot. And I got to Diamonds like really quickly. I was actually stuck in Plat 1 for like 2 months. But I got to Plat 1 really quickly. And then I got to Diamond. I got to Diamond 2. I was there for like the entirety of Season 3. In Season 4, I like continued playing it. I hit Challenger twice, just hovered around high elo. The interesting thing is I didn't actually like the game. When I was playing it like at the high elo, I actually was really bored a lot of the time. And so it was ages ago that I saw Blizzard Dota. I was really excited about Blizzard Dota, and I linked to my friends the trailer. I was like, this game's going to be amazing when it comes out. And then it got changed like Blizzard All-Stars or something. And they got changed again to Heroes of the Storm. It's like entirely different. I was like, okay, I'm still excited. Still going to play this game. And eventually I got access, and I loved the game. So I just started playing it a ton, and then apparently I got quite good. So it was 2 weeks after I started playing, I got picked up by a team called Playing With Pain Is Pain. They were playing HPL and Community Cups at the time. So I went ahead and played with them. That was in September-ish, sometime around then.
So, like right before BlizzCon, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And I played with them until the end of December, when that team disbanded. So that they disbanded on the Sunday morning, and on the Sunday afternoon, I subbed for SK Gaming in the Gopher at the time. And from then, I've played in SK Gaming. And
You subbed once, and then you became a permanent roster member?
yeah,
Wow.
So ghosty.
I was very happy with that, I gotta say.
That's impressive. I don't know if there's anyone that can say that. Well, congrats on that.
What did you used to play in League?
Oh, I played support, actually.
Really?
My favourite hero was Support Lee Sin. I used to do this full tank build, where you'd max E, because it was a 70% movement and attack speed slow. And so you just trade with that, and then W back out.
You just blew Kevin's mind, and I love it. I don't know what any of those words meant, but I like it.
Kev, compare this to a weird build in Heroes.
Mm,
Is this like
it's like
Force Wall Tassadar? Is this like
Which
playing.
He's
It's like playing Diablo as a support. No, it's like, damn, I don't even know. You can't. You don't really have that versatility. In it's Lee Sin is like a bruiser, like
yeah, right?
a straight up bruiser, and but support um in League is like it's not only just like it's just kind of protecting your AD carry for the most part, or protecting your mid, as well as like putting wards around the map and just kind of being the general like keep everybody alive kind of thing. It's just like it's like playing a really peely Diablo where you don't actually I can't even. Yeah, Muradin as a support, exactly. Yeah, it's just like you can't. There's no comparison. It's just a really weird pick for support, but I love it.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Made it work. Challenger's good, as I understand it.
Yeah.
That's
It
impressive.
is.
That's impressive. So you big league background, and now you're with SK. In SK, I mean, you guys are making waves in Europe. I mean, you guys have qualified for DreamHack coming up. You guys have been doing well in ESL. Just tell us a little bit more about the team and like obviously what your goals are and how you guys plan to achieve them.
So, interestingly, when I started playing with SK, the roster was Linked, BZ, Escape, and BKB. And not a single one of those players is still playing with me right now.
Mm.
Although I'm not actually the captain. So there was a time when BKB and Escape left, and we picked up Zami and Araragi. And Araragi's the team captain. He joined as the team captain. And we played quite well, but we weren't like a top team then. I'd say we were like top 8, but like there are a few issues with that team. Like people wanted to be leaders, and some people didn't want to be leaders, and people wanted responsibility, and other people wanted that responsibility as well. And it just didn't really mesh as a team. And like despite that, we were still doing quite well. So I was very like happy with that team. So I decided to like stay in it despite like that roster trouble. And there came a time when BZ and Link left, and this was just as ESL Major League Season 1 was starting. And we were like, oh, we need 2 players. And so we were like, we just slot in 2 players like into that role immediately because we play Major League in like 3 days. Like, we gotta find players. And we found 2 players, Snitz and Rave. One of his accounts is called Kumato Boss. So Kumato Boss and Rave TGN are actually the same guy, if you're wondering. And they played on Uski Koga / AFK 1 minute. And I started scouting like them, and I was scouting a Snitz guy, and I asked around like, hey, what do you think of Snitz? Like, is he good? Because he's also from the UK. And I'd spoken to him before in like a Skype group. I think I spoke to him on TeamSpeak once or twice. And most people said to me, like, yeah, this guy's amazing. He's like really mechanically good. And someone told me, I can't quite recall who, he said like he's the new you. He's the new bakery.
So you're sold. This is.
I was like, wow,
What's a different
this
kind
is
of
amazing.
bakery?
I don't even know. He's like
It's like
Cakery
a coffee shop,
or
so a
something.
cakery. Oh, it's not much sweeter.
The Bertucci.
something like that. So,
If he's the new
yeah.
bakery, is he a fakery?
Oh,
No. Gosh, you guys just need a barista and then breakfast is served. It's great. Anyways, continue.
yeah. So we played with them on, I think it was a Friday evening or Saturday evening or something, and straight away it just sort of clicked, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. Like, and from then it's been like really good. Like the team meshes really well. We've been performing quite well. in the DreamHack qualifiers, which was actually our best tournament, I'd say, when we were at our strongest. Like the last game, it was versus Team Liquid, and we almost won it. But there was a bug where Zarmni clicked stage dive on the court, but he did it on the mini map, so he stage dived exactly on his position, and that's why we lost the third game. It was so close, and everyone's
But
like,
you saved
"Somebody, no!"
That is a weird.
Yeah, so the core was, I think, 7% no shields, and everyone was dead apart from Zarmni.
Yeah.
And he's running away full HP with stage dive on Black Hearts. Their entire team is rushing to our core, as he stage dives like up, and then immediately back down.
That's that is really unfortunate.
Oh
It
my
was
god.
We've had
I
some.
didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't know that was even a bug. That's funny. So you guys got second in the qualifier, and they
Yeah,
had
so you got
top
second.
4 qualify. How many teams qualified from that to go to DreamHack?
Yeah, so there was an 8-team qualifier. It was held in secret because I'm not exactly sure why, but it was held in secret. All the
DreamHack
teams
didn't want it released. They wanted a hype announcement. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Well, all the teams disappeared from like the events for this weekend, and there's a lot of comments on Reddit that I saw of, "Oh, why is all the top teams not playing this event?" I'm
They all
like,
went on vacation together.
How romantic.
That's funny. Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
and it's held across 2 days, and then the top 4 teams got to go to DreamHack.
Yeah, so that's top 4 teams competing in DreamHack Bucharest. How do I pronounce that?
Yeah,
Bucharest.
that's
Bucharest.
how you say it.
SK Gaming, Gamers 2, Team Liquid, and Fnatic. So that's very exciting. This is is it 10,000? I thought it was 12,000 euros. Is it 10,000 or 12,000?
That is 10,000 euros.
But still, that's like 11,000 US dollars roughly. That's the biggest
Chunk of
prize pool
change.
we've
It is.
seen. Period. It's also the first LAN we've seen in the Western world. I don't know if they've had anything in Asia. Honestly, I don't think they have.
I don't think so.
Nothing
That's-
major
It's that large of a pool, prize pool.
in terms
I
of
don't
just
know.
a LAN. In terms
No,
of just a
definitely
Oh,
not.
land wise, no, not to my
like
knowledge.
an actual offline event, even though
Right.
it's online. But yeah, I'm just reading the Liquipedia. I can link it for you guys in the chat. It's of course 4 teams. Caldor and Tetra will be casting that.
Yep.
But that's very soon. That is right around the corner.
That's exciting.
Yeah, the
We'll be checking it
24th
out.
to the 26th. So that's actually the same weekend as the finals of Heroes of the Dorm.
Yeah.
So if you guys want your ESPN fix, you do that, or if you want your competitive fix, perhaps with mini maps.
The time
Shots
zones
fired.
probably won't line up, so it should be
Yeah,
fine.
that's true. That's
because
true.
of how far ahead they are compared to West Coast in the U.S. So I don't think that'll be a big issue. But that's really cool that there's going to be that much content, and I mean, all right. So let's talk about DreamHack really quickly. I mean, this is we're kind of just getting into the Europe discussion, and we'll talk a lot about Bakery. We talk a lot about SK and just Europe in general in this like whole segment. But DreamHack just kind of had their big announcement trailer, and I'm not sure if you guys saw it. It's actually really hyped. Did a really good job with it. But with that, they've officially revealed all of the events that are happening, and they've pretty much only officially announced that there's going to be Counter-Strike at like every event. Like every event is going to have Counter-Strike no matter what. And then StarCraft is guaranteed to be at like the bigger events. But it's definitely open. There's not a single MOBA listed on there. You know they're not just going to not run Dota or not run Heroes or League or something, right?
Right.
That's illogical. So considering that we do have Heroes at this next event in just a couple weeks, I think there's a pretty good shot that Heroes gets put into a large number of these events, and one of them's in your backyard, London.
Ish, maybe.
Did you not even know about this bakery?
I had no idea.
I don't think anybody knows about that, Jake.
I knew
Okay.
there was
Whoops.
a DreamHack at London.
Okay. Well,
I
no, I
thought
don't
it
know
was
if
a
there's
really
gonna be. I
small
don't know if
event,
there's gonna be
though.
heroes.
I
there.
wasn't-
I don't know if
yeah.
there's gonna be heroes. I'm not announcing that. I'm announcing just the fact that there could be heroes at that DreamHack. So there's of course Summer, which is Sweden, Valencia, London, and Stockholm again, and then I don't even know how to pronounce this. Cluj-Napoca.
I'm sorry, what?
Run that by me again there, Jared, in Australian accent.
CLUJ-NAPOCA. I think that's the Spain
I need
flag.
to see it written.
And then it's DreamHack Winter. I'll link you guys the chat here. I'll link you guys the DreamHack page in the chat.
Please do.
all the events are on the right. But so there's definitely promise for more competitive heroes at those events, and we can only hope that DreamHack or ESL or somebody is the first one to do a global LAN. Because as excited as I am to see the 4 teams that are playing here, I really wish there was an NA qualifier too, just because I'm so anxious to see like the top 8, like top 4 from Europe and the top 4 from America clash on LAN.
Yeah, I would
I would fly out. I would
fly out in a heartbeat. I've been trying to make a trip to Europe anyway, but if there was like a Tempo and the 2 Cloud9 teams and Complexity making their way out there, yes. All of my yes.
Yes.
That is if I'm not selected to cast or anything. You guys need a host or a caster. DreamHack.
Get in line, boy.
I know a couple of guys. I said a couple of guys. It's not gonna be a solo cast, Jake.
Yeah, it will.
Oh, okay. Yep.
What are your thoughts on that, Bakery? Do you want to face the rest of the world?
I really want to face Tempo Storm.
Just Tempo Storm. Screw everyone else.
Well, it's Tempo Storm specifically, because for ages, like, we were sat in EU and we were looking over at, like, NA, and we were just seeing Tempo Storm crushing everyone, and we were like, how do they do it? Like, they don't look that much better mechanically than the other teams, and their rotations are, like, not that much better than the enemy teams, but they crush every game. How do they do it? So for a long time, I've wanted to play Tempo Storm, and I never have. So
awesome. That's hype to see that there's like interest to play another team across the globe, because you're like, what's the hype? We can beat them. Is that the logic?
Robbie.
I think we can beat them.
Okay.
I like it. Of course, Jared's not on this one episode.
I know.
We have someone from EU here. Jared is always talking smack about the EU scene, and he ducks out this one episode.
I mean, yeah,
Suspicious.
he likes to talk
Yes.
crap about EU, and we're talking about Murky because he just got played in competitive. Zoya picks the best show to not come on.
He has no control over when his birthday is, so
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, that's something his mother chose for him. So
Guys,
you know.
make sure you wish him a happy 18th birthday on Twitter.
yes.
Yeah, please. At tempo _Zoya, right? Or
Yep.
tempo Zoya, no underscore.
Zoya. Yeah.
Please just
I love
wish him
this
wish
grubby
him
emoticons in
a happy
chat.
birthday and tag Town Hall, because he's missing like one of his favorite discussion points: EU meta and Murky.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the twofer.
Twofer. All right. More about SK Gaming. So when it comes to this event, you know that you have 3 teams that you're up against. And I just read them off. I think it's Liquid, G2, and who the heck am I missing?
LDS,
Fnatic.
is it? Oh, Fnatic.
Fnatic. Considering that it's a small team pool, is your practice a little bit more focused as to like what you know about those teams? Because this is a big prize pool. This is, I mean, group stage in ESL, yeah, you have to worry about that. Yes, you have to be practicing and playing in that every week. But is your focus really on that LAN right now in terms of your practice regimen, or is it just kind of you're just practicing more and not necessarily specific practice?
So we're not practicing specifically for teams. Not yet, anyway. Because the way that I see it, like, if you want to win the event, you have to beat every team. So we're not going into the event going, oh, if we can just get a win off Gamers 2 and Fnatic, we can secure second here. We want to win it all. And so, I mean, I suppose we could be busy preparing for who we think's the strongest team. But I think that the best way to do it would just be to prepare in general and be the best team at the event, and then you'd win anyway. as long as you're ready for what the enemy team throws at you.
I suppose that's decent logic, yes. Be the best, win.
Be the best, yes. That's good sense.
Basically, our logic going into these matches is we're trying to keep one thing only in our minds: don't lose.
Don't do that. Pretty sure we win.
Guys, I just want to give a huge shout out to the webcam I was given to use. 1.3 megapixel webcam. Woo! So hype.
Okay, so more about the bakery. You mentioned when you were playing League of Legends that you were bored a little bit, and then you saw Heroes of the Storm. You're like, okay, that looks exciting. What is it exactly about Heroes that is good for you compared to League of Legends in terms of excitement, etc.?
I have no idea.
I was like, is he muted?
No, he's thinking before he talks, Kevin. I know this is a tough thing for you to do. But.
I was like expecting this great answer, like he was just like brainstorming, like it's gonna be this intricate answer about how there's no like another long farming phase, and he gets to just kind of go in there and have a lot of action and team fighting. It's all about coordination, and it's just I don't have a damn word to say.
I like it.
I mean, I didn't really want to jump in there with the whole, oh yeah, there's no farming phase. Isn't that amazing? Because everyone says that. So I wanted to try and bring some insight, but there really was no insight to bring.
Honest, I like it.
There's something that I don't like too much about Heroes, which might change in the future. Which is the sort of solo spotlight. And so basically what I mean is like in League there'd always be this one Vayne, and this Vayne would run into a team fight and she'd dodge every skill shot and she'd kill everyone because she dodged everything. She was the best player. And in Heroes you can't really do that. Like the closest is Sylvanas or Vala, but you still can't really 1v5 or 1v2, and that's a negative for me in some aspects because I want to be the one doing that. I want to be the one
Okay.
1v3ing the enemy team.
So
But
you'd like to see more skill-based heroes that have the potential to do that, but perhaps higher skill ceiling heroes.
I think it's got a lot to do with the way that healing works and the way that innate tankiness works. Because obviously there's no items, and a lot of the talents on tanks aren't focused on making them more tanky. It's giving them more utility or giving them more damage. So I don't really think you can make a hero that has that potential in this game. And that's kind of negative for me, but at the same time it's kind of positive because it makes team fights a lot more balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone can have a contribution to a team fight, especially the support.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, this is actually something I was talking about today. It's just that support in this game feels so much more interesting and fun than it did in League of Legends. I think like the funnest thing I had being a support in League of Legends that they took away from me in Season 4, not to compare League of Legends to Heroes, but was I just loved to like get 4 stacks of wards and just run around and ward everything, and you could just see the entire map. And then it was like Oracle battles, but in Heroes, I feel like I'm actually doing things in team fights and whatnot, whereas...
There's just a lot of supports that are playmakers. Like, that Ancestral can make or break a fight. That Polymorph can make or break a fight.
there's a couple of things in, like, Janna... I can't reference these because, Jake, you don't know them. But, like, there's a couple of ults in League that can do much the same, but it's just not as often as it is in Heroes. I don't know. I feel like I find in Heroes, like in League or a couple of other places, it's just like nobody wants to be the healer. It's like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. Even World of Warcraft, like not many people wanted to be a priest or something like that.
Not back
But in
then.
Heroes, I don't really run into the issue that like I'm playing solo queue and people are like, oh, I hate support. Or, I can't play support. It's just like people are just like, oh yeah, sure, I can play support. It's like nobody really seems to mind it that much.
A counterpoint to that, actually. I obviously came from League of Legends as a support, and I tried to play it in this game, and I absolutely hated it because the supports in this game are all about healing, basically. And the supports that I played in League, like my top 3, were Thresh, Lee Sin, Blitzcrank.
Yeah.
And none of those have like
Playmakers.
Yeah, it's basically sort of a tank, but like with a more team-oriented focus.
Yeah. No. Okay, so I can see that point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good point. Is that I mean, Tyrande and maybe Tyrande is like the only one that I guess like kind of fits that
Uther-ish.
Uther-ish.
Tyrande.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird though.
Jake doing okay over there? He's lost.
All right, boys, we lost
Finally
Jake.
lost it. Yep, the grubby got to him. It's
Yeah,
getting
really
late
just-
over there on the West Coast. What are you at? 7 o'clock right now? That's
7
tough.
p.m. already. I ate In and Out today, so I'm
Hey, you know
delirious.
we have Bakery over here. He's running at 3 o'clock in the morning right now. Is that right?
So it's 3 in the UK, but I run on CEST.
Okay,
It makes it
alright.
easier for
Okay.
like the team.
He's
So it's
9
actually
hours
4.
ahead of me, so he should
I run in
set it up.
siestas too.
No, you don't. All right, let's talk about Europe meta. The juicy. We're an hour in. This is where the juiciness begins, and I can tell myself on the timestamp, 1 hour, you get the juicy.
Jake's full
What
full
happened to
loop.
Jake?
I don't know. He just all of a sudden just flipped the switch.
That California living,
Too
man,
late.
needs to come back over.
7
Too late.
o'clock, it gets real moist here. The air is just moist. All right, Europe meta. Now, we watch a lot of it, and obviously we don't play in Europe, and I actually have a European account, and that's my big thing. When I return, I'm playing in Europe, so I'm super excited for that. But you guys do a lot of things that are different. Now, Temple Storm, when they first came over to play in Europe, that's when they kind of experienced Chen. You know, Chen after they nerfed Panda Pals, also known as Storm Earth and Fire. Kevin, stop microing your background. All right, so Chen got nerfed, Storm Earth and Fire. They changed it so it has that startup, makes it much more vulnerable, became very unpopular here in North America. Europe, we still see Chen all the time. That's one of the weird things. Now, can you talk to that? Why you guys value Chen so frequently?
So Chen's kind of weird because, like, in all of the EU teams, he ranges like from 1 week to the next of being, wow, this guy's so good, like I love Chen, and the next week they'll be like, wow, Chen is the worst tank, like why would anyone ever pick him? He just does nothing. He's got no CC. And it's just like a constant state of him falling out and then coming back in.
Yeah.
Like how I see Chen is he's basically like a pressure machine. So Chen's job is to suicide, but while suiciding, he's supposed to take up more of the enemy's time than the enemy's tank. So
Okay.
Wasting resources, essentially.
Yeah.
pretty
Of the enemy's
much,
team.
like
Yeah.
he's just there to be really, really annoying. And any damage that you put on Chen is pretty much useless because he doesn't do anything. So
I love it.
it's really weird.
Makes sense when
trying
you think
to,
about it.
describe Chen and talk about Chen, but
He's great because he does nothing.
pretty
He has
much
to
like
just that fly. It's just like, get out of here. Just okay.
So here in NA, we see him on a few teams. Will pretty much only run him on Cursed Hollow.
Yeah, he seems
There are some other situations, but they value him for his presence with the barrel in a lot of those close, very narrow, almost funnel points on the map. He's just very useful.
yeah.
Do you think that's got merit to it, or do you personally feel that he's actually viable on every map in the game? Kevin, you need to stop.
I'm listening. It's okay.
To some extent, he's viable on every map. Like he's awful on mines. Don't pick him on mines. I think he's also quite bad on Tomb of Spider Queen, but we haven't seen or played with him because everyone's just assumed that he's awful. So I'm not actually sure if he is.
Really?
Oh,
I mean, like Spider Queen's got so many small little hallways that I feel like he would be really good in that type of a situation.
I mean, the thing about Chen is you sort of stick him in a lane, and as long as that lane's isolated, he'll take towers. Against pretty much anyone but Zagara, as I can think of at the top of my head.
Yeah.
And so that's like his one main thing is that he crushes lane phase, like completely, unless it's Sonya or Zagara, and that's the two I can think of. And he's just a nuisance, so he drains like ammo and everything. So if you were to like Entomb the Spider Queen, because it's such a close quarters map, and he is actually quite bad early game outside of like the pushing and 1v1 laning. I don't think he'd actually be able to do anything in the lane. I think he'd just be a liability, and he'd just get ganked and forced away. I don't think he'd generate that much pressure. Whereas if you look at him on a map like Blackheart's Bay, where you can just sort of chuck him bot lane and he'll get towers and stuff. Or Cursed Hollow, where you can tri-lane one side of the map and chuck Chen the other. Or Dragonshire, where you chuck him top and tri-lane bot or roam between bot. That allows him to generate a lot of pressure. Whereas on close quarters maps, he doesn't have time to generate pressure, and he doesn't have the 1v1 matchup he needs.
That said, do you guys run him at all on Haunted Mines, or is that just like a no type of thing?
We
for that same,
don't
for that
play
same reason.
Haunted Mines much.
Don't
but
play
no,
it. Okay.
We've never run Chen on Haunted Mines.
Okay, for the same reasons, right? Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense.
So you mentioned he's not all that popular on Spider Queen. That's a very new map. I personally haven't been able to watch any Europe on Spider Queen at all this season because I've been here. But can you give me some insight as to like what you guys are seeing on that map in terms like are we seeing Thrall and Arthas? Like is there any weird stuff? Kevin, leave Diablo alone.
So we have actually seen quite a bit of Thrall on Spider Queen. I'm not entirely sure how validated that is. Maybe Thrall is actually good on every map, and people are picking it on Spider Queen and think it's only good on Spider Queen.
Interesting.
The one hero that I think does gain a lot on Team of Spider Queen is Zagara, because people overrate Zagara in my opinion quite heavily. Like, I think she's actually really, really bad. This is why I don't play her.
On Spider
But
Queen?
on Spider Queen, I think she's really good. Like,
Okay,
just
okay.
that map specifically,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
she's really good.
Good. I was gonna kick you off the show for a second.
Why? Why do you think she's that bad? Is it because she doesn't really have burst damage, or?
I think her damage is pretty inconsequential, and the thing about her maul is if you hit a maul on like a priority target, then I feel like it's been misplayed from that priority target. Like if I ever get mauled by Val, I'm just like facepalm. Like, what am I doing? Like I'm drunk or something. Like, how did that happen?
Mm.
Like I don't think it is basically like a poor man's Zeratul or something, because her damage isn't actually, it's actually quite preventable, and the numbers get a lot of inflation from lane phase and a lot of inflation from chucking a Hydra on a tank and the tank just ignoring it because he doesn't need to worry about just that one damage source. And so if you look at her actual useful, if you like go into replays and look at her useful damage in like games, it's really not that much. Like, it's mainly the enemy team misplaying it and Zagara doing quite well from that. That's how I see it anyway.
So her DPS numbers are usually tolerable, but like you were talking about this useful DPS number, which is something that's probably very invisible to the average viewer,
Yeah.
and you have to look at it. There's a lot of heroes that really fit this role. I think a good example of that is probably Nazebo right now. Stitches used to really fit into the spot where it was like, yeah, his DPS is really high. You see his hero damage at the end of the game is like, it's like off the charts. Why is the tank doing so much damage? Do you feel the real value in assassins in this game is about burst damage more so than anything else?
I feel there's place for burst and sustain. You just need to understand how to play the team fight. So one of the reasons that Valor is so good is because she can do anything in the game really, really effectively. So if you want her to burst, she can pick Rain, and she can Rain over a target, Blood for Blood over a target, Q and W over a target, and they pretty much die. Even if you catch a tank count, and you can blow all of your spells as Valor, they take a ton of damage. And if there's a sustained fight, you just hold those cooldowns, you just multi-shot on cooldown. Like, she does everything really well. And she's really versatile and safe. And she's got a lot of utility. So that's why I think Valor's so good. There's some heroes that are purely burst, which have some issues. So if you look at Folstad, he's actually got a lot of burst. And in theory, he's got quite a lot of sustain with his W, if he can keep it on a target. But teams aren't really running him that much, because even though his burst damage is huge, and apparently that's really important, like as a lot of people seem to think, he's not picked because he has some issues with the way that his damage is sort of secured. So his burst is very reliant on a stun lock, and after that stun lock, if you've used your W, your Q, and your R on that target, he does very little. So in those kind of scenarios, there's definitely players for someone like Hammer, who doesn't do pretty much any burst damage, but actually does a ton of sustained damage.
Yep.
And that means that Hammer pairs very well with sustained teamfight comps, which are probably one of the strongest comps in the game right now.
Mhm.
So, to sort of answer your question, I feel like burst damage is very valuable, a lot more valuable than it would be in other MOBAs, and it has been in the past metas. But I do still feel sustained damage is very important.
It's interesting because it creates different play styles. Like, I mean, we see those pick styles that incorporate Diablo or Stitches, where that's when you see the burst. That's when you see Tyrande Jaina being picked up, and they can just annihilate targets. And here's just, no, I'm not gonna. I was gonna talk about something like Mortal Strike, but that's a whole other discussion. We'll talk about that another day. What else is different in Europe compared to North America? I'm blanking right now.
I haven't actually seen that much North American play since the patch. I watched the Major League, obviously, but past that, I haven't actually seen much. Like, I didn't stay up for the
Sylvanas
most
a high
recent
priority.
Major League, the
Sy-
first week of NA
Sylvanas is
Major
high
League.
priority in Europe, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
all right.
Yes, she is. Well, maybe, sometimes. It seems to vary quite
Yeah.
a lot.
I remember when there was the initial stuff. Like everybody in EU was like, "Sylvanas is not that good," but you guys have been picking her a lot lately.
There was a lot of knee jerking towards Sylvanas. So when she first came out, people just said she was broken as hell and this is the best hero ever. Yeah, and everyone just first picked her immediately. And then there was sort of the counter swing where people were playing comps specifically against Sylvanas, and we're wow, Sylvanas sucks. We're never picking this hero again. And then she just falls out immediately, like,
Oh.
and no one picks her ever. And then suddenly she comes back in again. Everyone's like, wow, guys, Sylvanas is the best. Look at this silence. And yeah, there's a lot of weird meta swings like that in EU.
It kind of sounds like the EU meta shifts more frequently than the NA does. I wonder if there's any merit to that. It seems like NA is maybe on like a 3-week cycle, 2 to 3 week cycle, and from the sounds of how you're describing it, Bakery, it's almost like week to week things change heavily in terms of which heroes are really top priority picks and which are just awful.
Since the patch, there's been a lot of meta shifting. It's mainly because the counterplay in the hero pool is very high right now.
Mhm.
So, for instance, Jaina, a lot of people think she's the best, but there are certain things you can pick. You can get this from watching the like the Ding It Invitational games or the ESL games, but I'm not going to reveal the picks. There's 2 picks that you pick against Jaina, which are very effective, and they pretty much win every game that they're picked against Jaina in. And I feel like a lot of teams don't realise that, but if you look at Gamers 2 and Team Liquid, they understand that completely, and that's why
It's exciting. That's good. So you talked about just heroes that are coming into the meta because of counterplay. Are there heroes that have come into the meta from this patch? The chat mentioned Abathur. Do you guys have any Abathur play at all in Europe?
Yeah, so Gamers 2 are actually very prevalent Abathur players.
ADRD.
Yeah, they pull it off really well, and actually pulls quite a lot of bans. Like most teams that play against them ban the Abathur because it very much is an unknown variable. Like they don't really practice with it in scrims.
Right.
From what I've heard, they just bring it out in tournaments because they know how to play with it already. And so teams really don't get practice against it at all. And the way it comes out in a tournament, it just completely destroys them.
That's actually really cool, really exciting.
Hmm.
Trying to think of what America has that Europe doesn't have a lot of. No, of course.
Freedom.
The Asmodan
Oh.
Age. God, can't say that.
This is more of an America joke than anything else.
Specifically for
We had the Asmodan Age.
yeah, we did have that for a while. Tyrael is picking up a little bit more.
Tyrael definitely sees play, but is Tyrael unseen in Europe right now?
We have actually seen both Gamers 2 and Team Liquid run Tyrael.
Cool. In a aggressive blow-up style or more like defensive utility style?
It's actually really interesting because how I've always imagined Tyrael and how I've always sort of thought of Tyrael is he judgments the target, you try and kill the target, and then like it's a 4v5. But the way that we saw it played most recently was they would judgment a target and then go on a different target. And at first it struck me as really weird because I was like, why are they doing that? But like the main thing about the judgment is the stun and the displacement. So if you were to judgment sort of behind your main focus, it displaces the main focus. And if they're stood next to like each other, it's actually a longer stun than judgment is, and it's also displacement. So, and also the other thing is Tyrael's Q does a lot more damage than his ultimate. Because there was that patch a few months ago where his ultimate damage got like quartered or something ridiculous like that.
100% cut on it.
Yeah, that was it. And since then, his Q's actually done more damage than the ultimate. So,
It's weird.
like the way we saw it most recently was they would ult on a target, Q to a different target, and then blow that one up instead. Which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool way to play it. Makes sense. Like it's almost kind of like a mini Chen barrel, like hopping to the back and then trying to push them a little bit too far forward, and then it's like, okay, they're not where they want to be. Let's focus that. So that's cool. That's a neat way to play it. Other heroes. Have you guys seen a big change in how Stitches is being played?
We haven't
since
seen
this
any
most
Stitches.
recent-
at
No
all.
Stitches. Okay. All right.
Um,
Stitches play has, for the most part, in NA died down quite a bit. There are still some very specific teams that are running it with particular heroes, but it has died down quite a bit.
I mean, even
since
if we
the
look
patch.
at majors, that was on the new patch. Stitches
Yep.
was like maybe a 20% win rate. If
Yeah,
he was
it
fixed.
wasn't-
It
it
was
wasn't
really
good.
bad. It was really bad.
So no Stitches at all. Okay.
Interesting.
Sonya play? Anything? I'm always
course.
gonna ask.
Shut up, Kirby.
We actually play Sonya.
See.
Really?
Oh, Kevin, eat it.
Yeah, so
Damn it!
she's,
Yeah, I'm curious.
she's interesting.
She's pretty.
What kind of comps do you tend to run Sonya with? Is it
So,
specific style? Or?
we run her in a burst kind of style because that makes the most sense. So she actually has really high synergy with Falstad.
Okay.
And if you just leap on a target and then you Falstad laser on the same target, they just die. And it's actually a really nice combo. The issue with Sonya is sometimes, even though you get that kill, Sonya then dies immediately anyway because she's really squishy and she's in the middle of their team now.
Yeah.
but she's very volatile as a hero, which makes her interesting to play with and against. Because sometimes there'll be a Sonya and she'll do nothing in a fight; she'll just jump in and die immediately. And other times she'll land some amazing ult, and then she'll get like a full spin off or something, or she'll be like chaining seismic slams and wreck the entire team. So it's really difficult to play with and against because you really don't know what she's going to do for you at any one point. Which is, I think, why she isn't picked much. Because if you look at a perfect scenario, like Sonya, she does a lot. She does a lot more than any other tank in the game. But there's so many things that can go wrong that she really isn't picked that much.
Okay.
All right, so that covers a lot of different heroes. Let's talk about a little guy that got to see some play last night. He's a little fish named Murky.
Not really is he a fish?
Well, he's yeah.
More like an amphibian.
He's got
He holds a
gills.
fish in his hands.
He holds a fish.
He does hold
But I think he's more of an amphibian.
I'd say he's a fish, bro.
fish, bro. All right, what's your point, Jake? What are you getting at?
Kubi, tell me about the
Murky.
game. Tell me about the game. I saw him in Heroes of the Dorm. The level of play not as high in Heroes of the Dorm, so I don't want to talk about that as much. But I'm very intrigued to hear about the game last night.
Okay, there's a lot of factors that went into this, and you can make some conjecture as to why this was picked. Of course, the matchup was Cloud9 Maelstrom versus Go Gaming. Go Gaming is new to the Major League, of course, for the second season. Congrats to them for getting in, but of course, Cloud9 Maelstrom is the reigning champs. Game one was bad. Game one was bad. I'll just say they showed some very dominant plays. Just that, no other way to put it. They had a very dominant game. Cloud9 Maelstrom did. Whether or not they chose to go Murky, the second game was BM. Felt they could get away with it. It kind of worked with their comp. They ran an Illidan double support Murky comp, if I recall correctly.
With an Uther.
Yeah, they had an Uther, and
support.
I'm trying to remember if they had Rhaegar as well.
Well, I think it's important to bring up the fact that Uther's now basically like half warrior.
I guess that's a good point. And they were kind of playing the Murky as a warrior, and then Illidan was just going in and doing work.
Divine Shield, what? Divine Storm.
It was Storm. Oh no, it was Shield.
No, it was Shield.
Sorry,
It was Shield.
because they had
Shield.
Illidan. They had Illidan.
Yeah.
So that makes. I'm trying to remember who their DPS was to go along with this. I'm not recalling. I remember that it was King Caffeine that was on Murky. Of course, it was subbing out for the. They made it work. It was on Cursed Hollow. They were doing a lot of very heavy egg rotations. They were all over the map. They knew where the fights were going to be ahead of time. They was just absolutely obnoxious. They made it work. It was cool to see.
The eggs were certainly like on point. They were always moving out. That's what I was actually tracing out the entire map. Like I was for the most part radio listening to it, but like every time I would just check back every couple of minutes just to see where the eggs were going, and they were exactly where the team fight was about to be. It was really kind of interesting.
Was the egg positioned in a way that the team could defend it?
Yeah, it was more often than not either behind the team's lines or it was placed in a spot. They took the cloak on 13 after being popping out of the egg.
Really
it was a very bursty style.
Assault, I think it's called.
Yes, I think it is. It wasn't the necessarily burst damage style like we saw in Venom grabbed. The bubble upgrade at level 1, I think that's for the most part pretty standard, but it was a lot of slime upgrades. They took Octograb, of course. Did they have Falstad? I think they have Falstad on the team. Because I remember
so they just
Octograb plus Hinterland's Blast was quite a bit of damage. Yeah, they grabbed the Hidden Assault. It was a really different way of playing Murky than how I would have probably approached the problem. Because in my mind, it's like, okay, you want to have all those like reoccurring slimes plus the Octograb to try to get that heavy burst. But they got the burst through other means, throughout who was on the rest of the composition.
See, the only time I ever thought Murky was relatively viable in the past was when Nova was really strong. And you would just pair Murky Nova, you Octograb that target, and that target dies from Nova. So it makes a lot of sense that they would pick Falstad, someone who's very bursty, and that's really cool. I haven't seen the VOD. I caught part of it, but not enough to have a strong opinion, but that's very interesting.
Again, it was maybe one of the biggest mismatches that could happen. In nothing to take away from Go Gaming, but of course they are new, and Maelstrom is a very dominant team right now. So
reigning champs.
To say if that works because the skill gap between the two teams, or if it's something we may see in the future, kind of hard to say.
Okay.
But it did happen.
It is a thing.
It is a thing, and we saw other things as well. But I don't know if we want to get into that right now or a little bit later.
If there's other cool things that are shifting, I want to hear the shifts both NA and
Well,
EU.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you want to save that for ESL discussion, that's fine too. That's up to you.
I mean, this is basically ESL discussion now.
I'll just switch the thing. And ESL is North America and Europe, so.
Yes. All right. So the other interesting thing was the second series, another semi-mismatch, second place. Previous playoffs from season 1, which is Tempo Storm versus Rising Taquitos, another new team into the ESL majors. Second game was again with Illidan, but this time Abathur, Zagara, one support, and it was on Blackheart's Bay for game number 2. Again, game 1 was kind of a stomp again. We're like, okay. And we were looking at it and we're like, is this going to be a cheese comp? Because they grabbed Zagara and Abathur as those last 2 picks. And we're like, maybe they're going to run Global Range on the Blistos and then copy the Zagara with Nidus Worm and just try to take the keep out and then go for core. And we're like, maybe this could happen. We'll find out what happens at level 4. And they just ended up running double Illidan basically with all the, not even all, it was some Siege, some, what is that? The Symbiote upgrades for Illidan. Of course, the attack speed is really big for him, but
yeah.
They were incredibly aggressive in all of their team fights. They're just like, we're just going to move into your team. There's nothing you can do about it. Not even really a lot of CCs. They just displace themselves on top of the enemy team. It was like, we can't do anything.
Illidan Abathur has always been terrifying. I'm just intrigued as to what the healer was. It Divine Shield and Ancestral, or not even necessary?
It was Divine Shield.
It was probably Uther.
Okay.
It was Uther. It was Uther. It was another one of those situations where
did they have double?
Uther.
They might have had double healer.
I think it was Tyrande Uther.
Maybe it was.
That sounds really scary.
Yeah,
Honestly.
and no warrior once again. So those big things to take away from those 2 games.
Oh yeah, and first game, and this is I guess like a draft counter. Oh man, that draft counter.
You're talking about game
was
1 of the first series.
Game 1 of GOAT versus C9. I wanted to bring this up because I remember I was watching this and I just I was
I don't know
like,
if you could hear it in my voice, but I was like, what?
They picked Nova last pick.
Credit.
It was Nova last pick to GOAT, and C9 already had Tyrande. They didn't have a warrior picked yet, so C9 picked up Tyrael.
Just Shadow
And
Shadow
Shadowstalk.
It was literally the exact. It was the same map, Jake.
It was Garden again.
It was Garden of
Yeah,
Terror. They already
Garden
had
of Terror
Tyrande
again.
Like C9 was just like, oh, you're gonna pick the exact same thing that we destroyed during Grand
Storm.
Finals.
So Baker,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, Baker. Did you happen to see this match?
No, I didn't.
So this was the grand finals of ESL Season 1 playoff. So this is for first place. Map is Garden of Terror, and Tempo Storm decides to run Nova. I think because the enemy team, I think they had Jaina.
They had Vikings as well. We were talking about the Vikings, and again, Vikings were on
Right.
Cloud9's team as well.
So Arthlon's running Nova, and they obviously have this intent to just kind of blow them up, pick them off. You can't see Nova on the minimap when the Vikings are there. Kind of cool, right? Well, they already had Tyrande in their composition, so what Maelstrom does is they last pick Tyrael, and as soon as they hit level 10, like the VOD is insane. I'll link you the VOD after this. It's the second they hit 10, you just see Shadowstalk. They find a target, they judgment it, and they blow it up. And they just roam around, and they're just Shadowstalking, just finding people, and Judgment goes in, and the Lunar Flare Hunters, right, they just blow it up. And it's really, really exciting and aggressive, but definitely one of the cooler, responses I've seen to a hero pick.
But that game was like a carbon copy of that game that happened in the playoffs, and it was like, I know you guys were watching that game. Like, Go Gaming had to have seen that game, and how they didn't even
level 10.
didn't
The
even
same thing
consider the
happened too.
possibility. Like, I talked about it, and as soon as I saw the note, I was like, oh, that's kind of scary. Oh, okay, yep. They got Tyrael. All right. They did it the previous week against Vortex as well. So it kind of seemed like a situation where maybe they didn't do their homework and
maybe
research what Maelstrom was running previous week. I don't know. I couldn't possibly tell you what was going through their heads when they picked that.
And that's the kind of thing that can shift the meta. It's just like Nova is not safe.
I 1v1'd an ETC last night as Nova. That was great. Full
of
health ETC.
How does that happen? Clones?
That's just kept up my
How
don't worry
did
about
that?
it.
Whoa, hold on here. I hit rank 1 before somebody else.
Congrats.
No, it was I was playing and I went sorry, Kubi. I was playing Nova. I went my standard messed up all clones build, and then rewind with armor piercing and 5 stacks of gathering power. And the poor ETC had no idea what to do with it. He just saw 5 Novas show up out of nowhere. All of them are shooting him at once, and he went for the exact wrong Nova twice. And I was able to kill him. It was glorious.
At least he tried.
Bakery, any cool stuff you saw in the last couple of weeks in EU?
For ESL in particular, or anything?
Yeah, for ESL.
Uh,
You guys just started this week, actually. You guys started
yeah,
on Tuesday.
we haven't actually played yet.
Oh.
We haven't played as a team. Our first game's tomorrow.
Probably get on that.
The only full series we got to see was Gamers 2 vs Acer.
Pretty standard stuff, or any interesting styles? Did they play on Tomb of the Spider Queen?
I think we saw a Fnatic game on Team of Spider Queen versus ESC, but the issue was Fnatic weren't actually like playing. There's some issue like that. They had basically like lag issues, and so they lost the first game or something, and yeah, so that wasn't really. I didn't take too much stock in that.
That's actually a good point to bring up. I heard that DDoSing has become a bit of an issue over in the EU scene.
Mm-hmm.
More so than we're seeing over here. Fingers crossed. But is that how much of a pain has that really been to deal with?
So it hasn't happened to us because we all have VPNs on Skype. We did that a while ago. Like the biggest victims have been Team Liquid and Navi.
Yeah, that's
And yeah, there's not really much to say about it other than it really shouldn't have happened, and it just really sucks to see it happen.
Yeah.
Like Team Liquid didn't make it into the Major League because they got consistently DDoSed.
And they just
and
won.
they-
Dang it! I mean, they're obviously a good team. I mean,
Yeah, I'd say they're 100% top 2.
that's
with
rough.
Navi. And neither actually made it. Navi wasn't to do with DDoSing. I had no idea how that happened.
holy shit, that's actually ridiculous.
And Team Liquid purely on DDoSing, basically. They actually played with 2 subs in their sort of relegation match.
Yeah.
And even then, their like a third player actually got DDoSed in the middle of the match as well. So they ended up playing with 2 subs and a bot. And they didn't make it.
That is unfortunate. Get your VPNs, kids. Make sure.
Yeah.
It's an important
There's
lesson.
There's a lot of good DDoS guides, DDoS prevention guides out there, but even then, like, you can try and prevent DDoS in a billion different ways, and as long as you have one vulnerability, you're going to get taken out. I know, because I'm a systems engineer, so it's always a looming threat. You have, like, you can batten down all the hatches, but as soon as there's, like, one screw loose, you're screwed.
Wow, who would've thought? One screw loose and you're screwed. Shouldn't you be unscrewed?
Jake, you got to be really careful, or Kubi's
No.
going to bolt out of here.
Okay.
Oh god.
I get stuff.
Okay. Yo, just shout outs to these comfy chairs. Sponsor John Hall, please, Maxonomic.
Sponsors?
Oh, it's so comfy.
Sponsors?
Anyways, cool. Overall thoughts on Tomb of the Spider Queen as just a map in general, Bakery?
I actually really like it. I kind of see it like I kind of saw it like Mines. I wasn't really looking forward to it too much because I hate Mines so much. Every time I play Mines, I was like, oh, gotta play Mines. God damn it. So I really wasn't that excited for it. I was much more excited for Sylvanas, but after playing it, I'm a really big fan. It feels a lot more like Dragonshire. It feels like someone took Dragonshire and they were like, how about we put this into Mines? And then they did that, and it turned out really well. I think there's a lot of potential, both in terms of team fighting, in terms of laning, in terms of roaming, in terms of rotations on that map. Like, I think there's a lot of depth to that map. I think it's very easy to pick up as well, because the sort of basic mechanics are very self-explanatory. You basically gather gems and then pay them in, which is really simple. But the way that you pay in, because the scaling in that map's really interesting.
Right.
The things themselves, they actually scale quite badly, but their damage and the way that they snowball waves actually scales really well. So if you're winning, it's actually beneficial to not pay in until like level 15, 16. That's when it actually becomes worth it for you to pay in. But obviously, if the enemy team who's losing pays in and they get the walls with that pay-in, then they're no longer losing. So the way that the sort of pay-ins and the optimal times to pay in revolve around each other actually creates a lot of depth in the map.
Yeah, and you also have to weigh the risk of the fact that you could lose your gems if you die. And
Yes, of course. So obviously, hoarding them is not a good plan.
it could be. It's just it's a hard decision. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you like
The,
it?
the other thing about the map as well is the gank paths are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was playing my first game on that map, like my first game ever, and I was in lane, in the bot lane. I was with Valor. I thought I was perfectly safe. I was just off of my wall, and Uther and Arthas walk up, like parallel to my wall. They walk like along my wall and then just kill me. I'm like, what? How did they get there? It's because the way that the vision works in that map, there's so many vision blockers and there's so many tight corridors and there's so many ways around the bottom and the top of the map and so the middle, which just sort of hidden pathways that no one would ever think of. And then when you just walk around and gank someone, they're like, wow, they just ganked me from there.
So you think that's partially why we do see a little bit of Thrall there? Just a random wolf comes running through the
Yeah.
fence and just kind of hits you, and then guess what? Wind Fury to the face with a follow-up from whoever.
Yeah, I think that's definitely got something to do with it. It's also why we see quite a lot of Arthas on that map as well. And the other thing is Syndragosa actually works really well with the
love it.
Web Weavers.
I love it. It's so weird, but it's so good on that map.
Interesting. Wonderful to see that. That's
It's like
cool.
the Frozen Throne all over again. Giant dragons and an Uber X
fighting
and
bugs, yeah.
spiders and yeah.
Yeah, he hates an Uber Or he killed him?
He enslaved him.
Enslaved him,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Slaved him.
lore stuff.
Come on.
I don't know, man.
But it is a really interesting map, and one of the fun things I've kind of realized more and more is that if you try to like go for like these AoE comps, like the enemy team has to split out, but there's not enough room to split out like behind the fort. So they try to go to those little channels like to the sides, and then inevitably just get caught. Like it's like a lose-lose situation a lot for the defending team, I find. But I don't know. I'm curious to see how we're gonna see it. I mean, I know. We didn't see any ESL matches on it yet, right?
In
Yeah,
America?
like
Yeah.
I say,
I don't think so.
I'm trying to-
Bakery, what were you going to say?
yeah, the EU match we saw was Fnatic basically lagging and not really being in the game. So
No.
Interesting. Okay, we ask everyone this question. In my opinion, I think 7 maps is ideal. That's what we have now with Spider Queen. If you had to remove one map from the game when they add a new map, we know you hate mines. Would it be mines?
it would definitely be Mines. 100% be Mines.
Okay.
Do a lot of the other EU teams agree with this sentiment? It sounds kind of like you guys don't play it much, so is there an agreement that just don't go to that map, please?
Yeah, the large majority of teams hate Mines. Like a lot of times, like people don't even ban it because they know the other team won't pick it. Like,
See, we're not
I-
all that different after all. You know?
Okay.
We were never different to begin with, Jake.
I'm honestly joking.
Okay. All right. Someone's got to ask the tough question. No one's gonna ask it. I'm gonna ask it. You talked a little bit about wanting to play against Tempo Storm, but in general, what is your opinion of the whole EU versus NA debate?
Ooh.
Yes. Who's the better region and why? Which teams?
Full moisture.
What
in
would
the
happen
house.
if there was a 4v4 in a LAN, etc.? I mean, I want to hear all of it. Lay it out.
Okay. I'm going to do a timeline. So when I started playing back in September, I think NA were quite a long way ahead. And over the sort of first month that I was playing, EU really stepped it up. And EU went from being like discoordinated people practicing like 2 hours a day or something ridiculously low like that, to EU people practicing like 8 hours a day, going properly hard on the strategies and trying to bring some organization to the scene. And that's when we saw a lot of organizations get involved as well. And sort of after that sort of month was over and EU had gone really hard, I thought EU was quite a long way ahead of the large majority of the NA scene for quite a long time. It really was when the patch before this one hit, though, that I thought NA really stepped up as well. So at that time, like the time when Tempo Storm came and played in EU, I honestly, although they actually finished second in the Go 4,
They did.
like, I don't think that was a deserved placing.
Thought it was higher
To
than
some
it should have been.
extent, anyway. Like, because my issue with the games is they won because they had a lot more experience as a team.
Yeah.
And you could see the sort of mastery of the game that they had. It was a game against LDLC, and no one in the EU had played Stage Dive ETC. And LDLC completely smashed Tempo Storm. And this was in like the second round of the Go 4.
Yeah.
And they were like 3, almost 4 levels up. And then Tempo Storm just played this really weird turtle style, which no one in EU had ever seen before, where they just sort of like soaked with the ETC and then like did some really weird rotations, which were like half pushing and then running away as fast as possible. And they did some really weird thing like that. And then they got back in the game and then LDSC just threw it boss and they won. And every single game that I saw on Caldor stream, they like lost the early game pretty convincingly.
Yep. It was a very
And
common
then
trend.
came back because they understood the game to such a higher level than most of the teams. And that really solidified for me that Tempo Storm were not as good as people thought they were, but it was the same. They were definitely still good. I definitely still respected them as a team from that point. And the patch that hit after that, I thought NA got a lot better then. I thought a lot of the teams stepped it up again.
I
There
think,
was
I think the environment created by the ESL Major League, where the teams are playing scheduled matches every week, helped NA a lot because it just creates infrastructure.
we had that already with HCL.
We didn't.
Yeah. Heroes Champions League, which is a big factor, as well, I think anyway, as to why I thought EU was stronger. But when the Major League hit, definitely there was there's a lot of parity that I saw between the regions. The metas got quite a bit closer. Well, there's still quite a few differences.
Yeah.
And so right now, I think Team Liquid and Navi are a step above everyone else. Actually, wait. Team Liquid, Navi, and G2, I think, are a step above everyone else in the scene.
Interesting.
And then I'd place the top 4 NA of, in my eyes, Maelstrom being the top, Tempo Storm, 2Arc, because they're a really weird team as to how everyone underrates them, and then suddenly in the playoffs they come out and smash everyone, and no one realised that they were actually 6-1 in the regular season and stuff like that.
Their strats were so good.
Yeah. And complexity. I'd put them on the same level as SK and Fnatic.
I am excited for this land. So
I know.
Cloud9 can destroy him.
Okay.
I think Cloud9 is
Yeah, I think Cloud9 is
brilliant. I
probably
think
the
they're
best.
brilliant. Maybe I'm biased, but every time I watch them, they blow my mind. In the current state of things, they are innovating in just like flip calls. It just seems like they can just turn a switch in a game. It's like, oh, you pick that one hero, we're going to obliterate you because of that one hero.
Mm.
Like, and it's crazy. And I've never been a Cloud9 fanatic. Two teams there, mess that up. I've always enjoyed their games, but I was all Tempo Storm, rah, very biased for a long time, and I watch Cloud9 play, and I just get so excited. But I do have to say that Team Liquid and Navi, they both do that to me as well. So
I think out of the two, I think Cloud9 has like the out of Tempo and Cloud9, even Tempo, Cloud9, and Complexity. I think Tempo has the best weird picks, and then also into late game. Their late game is just, and I mean, that's where you're gonna win. It's
Yeah.
like if you want to be good at one point, it's gonna be late game. I think Cloud9 is like best at drafting. Their drafting is god tier.
yep, they definitely.
They force you into so many different things. And then their execution and like little micro things are amazing.
It's also
And then
Tempo's been
yeah.
a little bit different ever since they changed their shot caller. It
Yeah.
seemed like it took a little bit of transition time for it to feel as good as they used to feel. But shifting Dread into support made it weird for him to be the shot caller. Now Glaurung is the shot caller, and he's shifted over to being tank. They've made a lot of role swaps in the
Yeah.
team, and it's I don't know if it's as a huge detriment, but it's definitely interesting.
I think I completely agree with you there. I'm gonna put it out there that I feel like they go on tilt a little bit more nowadays than anything else. Like you start seeing Tempo do poorly, and it just kind of like compounds upon itself. So I don't know if I don't know if Dread was more level-headed than Glau was, but I don't know. That's just my thought. But I mean, obviously they know who does the better shots and whatever, or who should be in that position.
We're not just pooping on Tempo Storm because Zoya's not here, I swear.
No, I'm pooping on that. I'm getting the shots in before Zoya's like, well, let's talk about Tempo rule number, or let's talk about Titan Arena
Turns
rule
into
number
Mickey Mouse
34.
immediately.
I will say, though, I think the fact that Tempo is living in a team house together is going to give them a nice edge. They just moved in. It's going to make or break the team. They're either going to harmonize incredibly well or annoy the shit out of each other living together. And I am swearing like a sailor that today I'm doing a bad job.
Whoa!
So apologies for that. I'm out of my realm.
Oh, okay.
And Koopy's writing it in. Get the note.
No, that's somewhat of a commonplace in Europe. How many teams have a team environment where they're all in the same place?
So currently, the only one that's in a house is Fnatic, and the interesting thing there is that the internet's actually broken, so they've been having to go to offices of like sponsors to play,
It's so
okay.
bad.
which is quite entertaining.
So unfortunate.
I know there are a few other teams which are getting there, like
Okay.
in the process of setting up a gaming house, but it is only Fnatic for now.
Okay.
A point on the gaming house, actually. If it was a different team, then I think it would make a huge difference. But to me, Tempo Storm has always been a team of people that won because they harmonize so well. And I'm hesitant to predict that the gaming house will make them harmonize even better.
I just
Because
think
they
it's-
already harmonize so well.
Okay, I mean that's a compliment to them too, but you also have to consider the fact that they're living together and the brainstorming and like different kind of conversations and relationship they have. Like there's definitely a huge potential for them to do just weird things because they're just sitting around living together. What if we did this? Like somebody just has this idea and then they go and they practice it and they bust out this ridiculous composition. And I think they just have a higher chance of doing that living together. I think there's a big advantage to just trying weird things. But maybe I'm just fantasizing about esports, team life.
Incidentally, when I saw that house tour video, I have no words.
Jealous.
Their kitchen was bigger than my house.
Yeah.
Just to
Pretty big
clarify, for
house.
anyone that saw that in Europe, it's in Arizona, and like the housing market is incredibly cheap. So I used to live in a apartment in New York City, Manhattan. That was like a studio, one room. That cost about as much as that house would cost to rent. So yeah, I'm jealous too.
Dude, I pay more. I still live in New York City. I pay more than their house to rent. It's ridiculous.
It's not fair. That
Jake, want to move to Arizona?
no, I don't.
I'll come.
Yeah, it is a fortunate thing, I suppose, and
Town Hall
it's
Team House.
somewhat close to West Coast, LA stuff. So yeah, it's a smart move together.
But all right, well, it is about time for shout-outs. And we're going to go backwards. I'm going to start because I want Bakery to go last.
Oh.
So, shout out to you nerds for being here, for holding the fort when I was gone last week. And we'll be back home next week. So, as long as they don't spontaneously summon me for the finals and make me make me fly back out here, I will be hosting from Kubi's Castle back where we live home on the East Coast. And thanks everyone for just continuing to support my YouTube and Twitch. I've seen like a lot of new follows and whatnot on both, so appreciated there. The stream will be back to normal the middle of next week. And ESL Majors, figuring that out for tomorrow, should be casting here in the studio with Grubby. It's been hectic with tons of events going on. We have multiple studios, but we have like Mortal Kombat and Heroes of the Dorm and all these big productions happening. So hopefully we can get into the studio tomorrow to cast that. So look out for ESL Major League. Make sure you guys follow twitch.tv/ESL_heroes. Follow the channel here, and off to Kubis.
Well, all that said, things are actually going to be kind of quiet for me here. So if potentially not casting tomorrow for ESL, so that means I'll be returning next Tuesday. Wait, actually no. Oh, you're coming back Monday. So then yes, Tuesday should be.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Tuesday I'll
Should
be
be back to
home
normal.
Tuesday night to cast. Yeah.
We'll be back in the studio. That said, I guess I'm just going to be watching a ton of Heroes over the weekend. I'll let Kev fill us in on his big undertaking, number 3. And then, of course, Heroes of the Dorm happening at least this Saturday as well, too. So guys, make sure you're checking those things out. And you guys can follow me on Twitter @TheKubi. And that's it for me.
I just want to do another shout out. Shout out to all the Blizzard folk that I got to experience, because actually a ton of people that I haven't met before knew who I was because of Town Hall. They're like, oh, I watched Town Hall. So that was awesome. So shout out to you guys. And Matt Shambari. Kevin, Diablo, go.
Diablo wants to remind you to watch Titan Arena 3 this weekend.
Strong Bad's
You
here.
can check it out. Oh, it is Strong Bad. Anyway, check out Titan Arena 3, guys. You can check it out on MLG.TV/Sham2, SCHAMTOO, or MLG.TV/Titan Arena. I forgot that also exists. Links are up on the Reddit. You can check it out on the sidebar. It's gonna be awesome. I've gotten confirmation from a couple of teams that they're holding their cards close to their chest before this weekend. Like, people are hiding strategies and everything for what they want to pull out for this weekend, which makes me really excited. Yeah, so the brackets are starting to fill up. I'm gonna push out a couple more. Hopefully get a couple more teams registered and all that stuff. I'm looking at you, Heroes of the Dorm teams that got knocked out this past weekend. I'm trying to get the Rutgers team to get back together to do it. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Idra's going to be my co-caster, so it's going to be a no fluff zone.
No fluff zone.
He's just going to poop on everyone.
All
All right, Bakery. The baker. You bake the cakes. Tell us what else you do.
Wait, what?
Don't worry about it.
Shoutouts.
So, shoutouts to you guys. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, thank you.
Shoutouts to my team, SK Gaming, and our sponsors, Median, Intel, ASRock, HyperX, Game.de, Inwin, and Myonix. Shout out to Keithers, because Keithers is the best, and that's about it.
Just random Kiefer shout out. I love it. Well-
what are you guys going to be competing in coming up that we can look to see some of your games? in?
So we're going to be practicing really hard for DreamHack Bucharest. Obviously, we're boot camping for a few days in Germany, so that's going to be really fun.
That's awesome.
We're playing a few Major League games from there, so that'd be interesting. And yeah, we're just generally practicing really hard because we want to win DreamHack.
Well,
like
best
it.
of luck to you. Thank you so much for coming on into the wee hours of the night. It's 9 hours plus 8, so whatever time that is. Oh, that's early. That's like 5 a.m. Did I math right? Is it 5 a.m.?
You did math right.
You did. You got it.
Yes.
Hey.
All right. I'm proud of myself, guys. We will be back to normal next week. I think we're trying to have Grubby on. So that nerd's right over there. I'm waving to him. I'll let him wave to you. See if we can get his attention. Nope, that's Chips.
Not happening.
That's shit.
You're waving chips
Close
at him?
enough.
Nope, he's actually just he's video gaming. He can't see us. All right, well, this terrible dizziness that you're getting from me trying to juggle this webcam, I have to hunch down here. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the poop audio bakery. Thank you so much for coming on. Wish you the best of luck if we don't talk to you before DreamHack because, well, you're the only player at that event that's been on Town Hall, so therefore you better win. Pressure's on. All right, guys, till next week.
Best.
We'll see you next time.
Ooh.